So you meet Greg Gagne in college. You guys are both on the football team. He's your
Yep.
quarterback. What's your initial impression of Greg as a quarterback and just as a man?
Well, he was a very good athlete. I mean, he played football, basketball, and baseball at Mound High School, which is a suburb of Minneapolis. And he was the problem that Greg had at the University of Minnesota. He was slight. He was 6 feet, 170 pounds. And at that time, Murray Warmath, who was the legendary coach for the Gophers, liked his quarterbacks to be able to run. It's almost the veer option that we had. And most of the quarterbacks were about 2.5 or 2.10, and the only time we threw was on third and long, and then he'd throw a 5-yard out. So it was Greg sort of realized that right off the bat that he wasn't going to play quarterback. So after his sophomore year, he transferred to the University of Wyoming. I continued to play football. And then, after we were done, I had a week tryout with the Washington Redskins in 1972 as a free agent and didn't make it, didn't get asked back. So I thought, well, I'm going to go back, go to school and get my degree. I had like 31 or 32 credits left. So Greg called me out of the clear blue sky and said, hey, my dad's going to have a camp, and we got Ric Flair and we got Ken Patera coming back from the Olympics, and we got Bob Bruggers, who was a football player, and Khosrow Vaziri, you and myself. So I thought, why not?
Khosrow is the Iron Sheik, correct?
The Iron Schnook.
Well, so how do they go about breaking you in? Like, how does he propose it to Vern? Did you meet Vern prior to the camp?
Yes, I met Vern in college. Greg and he invited me over a couple times. They lived at a multi-million-dollar house on Lake Minnetonka, which is the big lake in the Twin Cities. And he, Vern was a self-made millionaire and a very successful wrestling promoter with the AWA, and he had broke in a lot of big talent, a lot of guys, and out of our class, when you look at it, he had Ric Flair, who's done pretty well, and then Kenny Patera, who did well, and the only one who didn't really do well was Bob Bruggers, and that's because he was in a plane crash and hurt his back severely. He was lucky to be alive. And then you have Khosrow, and then Greg and myself, and I had a great tag team relationship with Greg for 10 years, and then I went and had one, almost 5 years with Brian as a Killer Bee in WWE. So, we had a pretty good, successful camp.
What was the actual training like?
It was hard. First of all, we started out and we'd have like about a 2-mile run, a trot, and then we come back and it was a barn. And we started, I just found this out, and I'll tell you, it's sort of unique. We started on September 25th, 1972. And the reason why I know that is because the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, called me yesterday and wants to have a party in Tampa to celebrate his 50th anniversary of our camp. So he asked me, and I said, I don't know. I said, I knew it was sometime in, the fall. And he said, well, God, I got to have a date. So I called Ken Patera, and Ken is really good with numbers. So Ken says, hey, I just got I got back from the Munich Olympics. And he says, 8 days later, I got home on the 17th of September, and 8 days later, we started the camp. So 8 days later was the 25th, and it was on a Monday. So that flew with Rick, and who knows if we'll have a party. He might have a party. He would just forget to invite us.
Were you excited to team with Greg? Did you want to be a singles?
Well, I think I started out when I first started wrestling. I didn't stay too long in Minneapolis. I stayed about a month and a half, and then they sent me to Kansas City in the Central States League. And we wrestled every single night. And we drove to every town, and they put me with a kid by the name of Mike George, who was a very good amateur wrestler from St. Joe, Missouri. And we we did real well. We drew a lot of money and did very well. And then I was down there, I think, for about 13 months. And then Vern suggested that I come back to Minneapolis, but first he wanted to send me to Japan for 5 weeks. So I went from Kansas City to Japan for 5 weeks, and that was really a learning experience there. And then I came home, and then they tagged Greg and I up for I think it was about 5 years. And then I decided I wanted to go on my own, and so I went down to Charlotte in the Mid-Atlantic in 1979, and I was down there for 16 or 17 months. So that was great too, because I got to wrestle with Flair there, and Jimmy Snuka, and they had a lot of great talent. Ricky Steamboat, who was incredible. Plus they had, again, they had the Briscoes and the Funks coming in, and it was very good for me, because I saw a different talent, and I saw the way they worked in the ring, and you learn by that. So that's what I tried to do.
You went back to the AWA for a second run, correct?
Yes, I went back in 1981, and it was funny because I went to Japan first again, and they tagged me up with Nick Bockwinkel, who was the AWA heavyweight champion, and for some reason they needed a partner for him, so I was free. So that was a real unique opportunity to wrestle very aggressively in Japan with such a caliber of a partner as Nick Bockwinkel. Was really great. So I was really blessed, Mike, with my career. I had a lot of good guys to work with. I had a lot of guys that helped me, and I was it was beneficial to me, and I couldn't believe that I made it, counting all the years, 27 years.
Where can they get the book?
Oh, Blurb online, BURB, and it's got like 47 stories on it. In it, every word was written by me, my wife, and it took us 5 years to put it together, through my high school and college and all the wrestling, and it's fun to do. And I sold a number of books, and the fact that I didn't have a ghostwriter. So I know every time I do one of these, I always sell 10 books at Blurb. So thank you, audience.
So it's BURB?
No, BLURB, Blurb.
Blurb. I will be buying one before I go to sleep tonight.